The Joker is one of the deadliest characters that exists in the DC universe, and no matter how many times Batman stops his plans or locks him up in Arkham Asylum, he always comes back and executes yet another plan of murder and mayhem. So this video is going to discuss some ideas of ways that I think Batman could stop the Joker for good. Though we won't be including killing him on this list, or hurting him so bad that he is not a threat, such as paralysing him or cutting off his limbs. This is because even if Batman was prepared to kill or paralyse the Joker would still find a way to heal himself and return. This is comics after all, and the Joker has been killed and then later come back, and he's even cut off his own face and then later had this injury healed. So killing or crippling the Joker aren't options. One, because it's immoral and no superhero would willingly do it, though maybe the Red Hood wouldn't mind doing it a bit.
Why on God's earth is he still alive?
And the second reason is that in the world of comics, death is not the end. It's just a mild inconvenience. And killing or paralysing the Joker would not be a permanent solution, as he would definitely come back. So the first way that I think you could stop the Joker is to find his family. Now, no one knows who the Joker is. This has been a part of his character since he first appeared in comics. And though there have been some alternate versions of the Joker where we learn his real name and see what he was like before he went insane, in the main version of the Joker's character, no one in the DC universe knows who he is, or rather, who he was. Of course, we know from the comic and film The Killing Joke who the Joker was before he went insane. He was a man with a wife who was pregnant, and also a man without money, as he had quit his job at Ace Chemicals to become a comedian, and he wasn't a very good or successful comedian. So he desperately needed money, and like so many poor people over the years, he turned to crime, which is what eventually led to him meeting Batman and being turned into the Joker. But going back to when he was a normal person, one of the main reasons that the Joker does lose his mind is because he is told by the police that his wife and child are dead, which is understandably devastating. But how do we know that they're actually dead? After all, we never see a body or a funeral, so the cops may have got the wrong person. Maybe the woman and baby are fine. Maybe the wife died and the baby managed to survive. Maybe it was a completely different woman who had a baby and they got the names wrong in the hospital. His wife could be very healthy and alive in the hospital with a young baby who is also alive. We just don't know, because the Joker never bothers to check up on this as far as we see. For all we know, this is some sick practical joke that the cops play on random guys. After all, it has been established that the cops back then were corrupt as they come and, quite frankly, arseholes. But even if his wife and child did die, he probably has other family in the world, such as a sibling or a parent or an uncle or a cousin. The point being that if you can work out who he is, and then introduce him to his old family, especially his wife and child, if they're alive, then it would rock the Joker to his very core. As I said, a huge part of him being the Joker is because they are dead. It's the spark that lit the insanity inside his mind. And if Batman brings them back to see the Joker, then they might be able to turn him sane, or at least jog his memory enough to begin to bring him back to sanity. Now, we don't know this for sure, but it does seem likely that his family could have this effect on him. Basically, the best way to stop the Joker would be to turn him sane again, which is actually what Arkham Asylum is meant to do, although they're very unsuccessful at it. And even if the family are dead, well, there are Lazarus pits in the world, and while it is unlikely that Batman would want to use one to resurrect his dead family, well, it would probably be a better option than letting the Joker continue as he is. Now, we don't know for sure that the family would have this effect on him, but even if they didn't, can you imagine reading a story where the Joker's assumed dead son meets his father and sees what he's doing with his life? Even if he didn't turn sane, it would make the Joker take a good hard look at himself, and hopefully get his act together and try to be a better role model for his son. And personally, I think that would be a very interesting read. But anyway, this is one way to stop the Joker, as Batman may be able to return him to the man he used to be before all the violence. Like I say, the plan is to turn him sane, although I doubt he'd stay sane forever, as one of his enemies or former victims is likely to attack and kill his family in an act of revenge. But there is another way of getting the Joker to stop being a mass murderer and an agent of chaos, and that is to give him a compassion power ring. Now, the Lantern Corps power rings are powered by different emotions in the universe. These are willpower, fear, love, avarice, hope, rage, and most importantly, in this case, compassion. And this indigo ring is powered by compassion, and it can be wielded by one of two people. The first is someone who has a great deal of compassion in their heart. Now, obviously the Joker doesn't have any compassion at all, but that is exactly the second type of people who get these rings. You see, the rings mainly latch on to people who have no compassion at all, such as serial killers, war criminals, or anyone who has no empathy for other living beings. And since the Joker has no compassion or empathy, he's a perfect candidate for one of these rings. And the compassion rings basically make a person who is a horrible mass murderer into quite a nice and compassionate person. Basically, they change a serial killer's personality to turn them into the perfect neighbour. And this means that so long as the Joker is wearing one of these rings, he would not be the Joker anymore, as he would not harm any living person. Effectively, this ring would kill the Joker and leave behind someone far less deadly. And the Joker could even spend the rest of his life on the Indigo Tribe's planet, safely tucked away from the rest of the world. Now, you may think putting him on another planet wouldn't work, as it's just another prison, and no prison has ever held the Joker. Hell, he even escaped the Phantom Zone in the Lego Batman movie. But every time the Joker was previously in prison, such as the Phantom Zone or Arkham Asylum, he always wanted to escape and wreak havoc. But with the Ring of Compassion on his finger, he wouldn't want to escape, as he'd be happy where he is. And this is probably the best way to stop the Joker, short of killing him, as the ring would pretty much make him sane, or at least sane enough that it wouldn't make any difference. And he would no longer be a threat, as he'd be far enough away that none of his old enemies could attack him, and none of his old allies could get there to get the ring off of his finger. I'm mainly thinking of Harley Quinn here, as she is the most in love with him. But in the current continuity of DC Comics, the Joker and Harley aren't an item anymore, so she probably wouldn't help him. And even if they did go there to try and get the ring off of him, he would fight to keep it on, because he'd basically be a neutered Joker, and he would want to remain that way. And these two ways seem to be, to my mind at least, the best ways to stop the Joker, as they both change his mind and mental state, as the real danger of the Joker is that he is mad and violent. But if you give him back his sanity, then he's likely to be a normal, everyday human, with little to no bloodlust in him. But what do you think? Do you think one of these two ways would stop the Joker forever? Or is there another, better way you can think of stopping him? Be sure to let us know in the comments, especially if you do have another way of stopping him, because I'd actually be quite interested to read it. And I'd just like to say a quick thank you to those who made this video possible by donating to the Needlemass Productions page on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment.